It is your weekend edition of Viewpoint on DBS Television. Wishing you all a happy start back at home, and thank you very much for joining us. Our focus of discussion this evening is concerning the Anglophone crisis and the contribution of some locals in the fueling, or rather quelling, the crisis. And talking with us tonight, we are having Mbaku Jude. He is a journalist and a rights campaigner, accompanied as usual by Mange Venashus. Good evening to you, Mbaku, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. It's a pleasure being here for to share my viewpoint on your show today, and I'm very sure that at the end of the day we are out to educate the population and also have feedback from what they think, and to ensure that we accompany them in the process, especially those of the Northwest and Southwest, which we are talking about. Ensure that we have some peace, we have some serenity. It's been a long time of suffering over there, so I want to hope that they are doing well this evening as they watch the show.
All right, thank you. Mange Venashus, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Vanessa, and good evening to our viewers.
Let us take the first part of the show. Once more, welcome back. Let us take question 1. Looking at the violent nature of the crisis on Anglophones, is there any impact on the struggle? I begin with you, Jude. Yes or no?
Yes.
There is.
There is a lot of impact on the, what is called the struggle today, the Anglophone struggle, and what has actually become today is what no one would have thought at the initial stage of the crisis, because in 2016, October, November, when the teachers and the lawyers stormed the streets of Bamenda.
All right, probably we'll come back to the development in the second part of the show. Mange Venashus, your take on that?
Yes, Vanessa, there are some impacts.
There are some impact. Question 2, and of course the last one. Have the efforts of Anglophone elites been sufficient to bring a solution to the 4-year-old crisis? Jude, what do you think about that?
Big no.
Big no.
Yes.
Mange Venashus?
They've had a midway, I would have said yes, but yes to a lesser extent.
Yes, to a lesser extent. Let us take a second part. Coming up is the debate. Jude, I begin with you. At the beginning, you said yes, there is or there are impacts on the struggle, and you were trying to take us back from where it started, from teachers and the lawyers. But then, I want us to look at the impact on the struggle on the Anglophone themselves.
The impact so far on the struggle on the Anglophones themselves, it has been a midway thing. It has been many Anglophones like myself and all reasonable Anglophones take this struggle with mixed feeling, because what would have been a good struggle, the cause for which the struggle had anchored on in the very beginning, was a smooth one to give a right direction to whosoever was fighting for whatever. But we're looking at the impact on the Anglophones today. It's really negative. I say this without blinking of an eye, because at the end of the day, what matters in life is life itself. If the human form cannot exist, then there's nothing you can talk about. You can't talk about rights and freedoms when you are not in existence. And Anglophones, the struggle which we are talking about today, has become a struggle that is retrogressive. It has become a struggle that has turned on its own. And that is why I think that Anglophones themselves, the Anglophone population, because keeping aside the belligerents, that is the government party, and those hardcore separatists, we have the normal Anglophones, which you're referring to here. They are the ones who bear the brunt of the crisis. And
pastors
the impact
are being killed, like innocent civilians being killed. Recently, we had the case of a lady that was murdered.
The lady you are talking about is about 4 days even. I'm talking about this morning.
All right.
There is a case in a councillor in the Northwest region. He's been beheaded. Just this morning, I saw the images. Are we also talking about the teacher who was murdered and dumped in a river in Bamenda City? I'm sure it was yesterday or 2 days ago. I mean, these things, there are many of these circumstances we can cite. Students have been tortured for not going to school. We have teachers who have been well beaten for just invigilating examinations. I think these things are done by the same Anglophones who are fighting for the right. So, globally, looking at the impact on these Anglophones, do we want to talk about ransom taking? Do we want to talk about fiscal torture? We want to talk about adoption and cruelty and stealing, looting, and all that. These things exist. These things exist, and it is not somebody from somewhere that is perpetrating this. It is the same Anglophones that are doing it on their own. When they term you a black leg, when they term you a La Republique agent, that is what they do to you. And so the effects on the common Anglophone man are overbearing. There is no serenity in that part of the country. I've been there not once, not twice. I've worked there. And I can tell you that there's just relative calm. Places are calm. The next minute, you don't know what you can become. You can be the next corpse. So the Anglophone themselves, they need to sit back. And I indict the Anglophone diaspora. The Anglophone diaspora is supposed to be, when we're growing up, we used to believe that the diaspora guys are some kind of very intelligent, they are some savior. When you go to America and you come back, we look at you to be some person who can really influence.
With an extra super knowledge.
That is just the mentality we had when each time we look at people from the diaspora. We know they could add something into our lives back home. But we've realized and I'm never afraid to say it anywhere, on any media I find myself, I tell the Anglophone diaspora that they have become a disgrace to us. Because the methodology, what we had expected them in the 21st century, the way we had expected them to handle the crisis is totally contrary to what is going on now. You cannot be in Europe where you've seen development with your eyes, where you said you have seen freedom, you've seen how human lives are valued, and you stay back there and encourage that they should be killing over here. People kill at will. Just because you have the capacity to fund them and call people your boys, you stay in the diaspora, you deny children who are growing up here from going to school. You know the impact on. Last year, I was doing a campaign for back to school. I took upon myself, I did a campaign for back to school, and I had to go to the northwest and the southwest region, struggling, talking, convincing some of the separatists I had the opportunity to talk with as well, to understand the reason why children should be led to go to school. They are the next generation. And if we are talking about Anglophone suffering, we are not giving this next generation the empowerment that they need. We are crumbling our own whole system. And you realize that it has happened. It has happened. Well, we succeeded, and many children are now going to school, though the separatists have not given the full approval. So the Anglophone diaspora needs to go back to the drawing board. The guys are so deceitful. Every day we get audios and videos from abroad.
All right, probably we'll have another platform where we'll discuss about the role of the diaspora in this crisis. But thank you very much for your contribution. Jude has a lot to say because he has been on the ground. He knows what is happening there. Mange Venashus, you equally think that the violent nature of this crisis has affected Anglophones themselves. Anglophones are torturing their own brothers and sisters.
Actually, Vanessa, when you look at this crisis that has been going on for 4 years, you tend to ask yourself, what are we fighting for? Because when the struggle started in 2016, like Jude was saying, you see, they presented a kind of a lofty idea which was quite convincing to everybody. And in due course, the whole thing changed and people started asking questions. Where are we driving to? Because you don't understand that the very people you pretend, I use the word pretend, that you are fighting for them, you are killing them. I don't see how you would kill them and then tell them that you are fighting for them. Vanessa, if we look at the number of civilians that have died because of this crisis, and you look at the reason why they are dying, when you look at the way at which they were dying, I remember when we were growing, we used to talk of a corpse. A corpse was very frightful. It was not something that, see anyhow. But we are now living in a society where you just get up in the morning and you meet a corpse just lying in the street, just at ease. And I happened to have gone to the village in 2017, and Vanessa, when you're out of Bamenda or Boya or Southwest or Northwest, you don't feel the weight of what is happening. But when you step in there, that's where you realize that you can die at just within the twinkle of an eye, or of an eye. Because I was faced with a very young man, who was asking me questions, and it's just enough for you to go away from the questions that he's asking. The next thing we talk about you in the past, because the way they have tackled the situation. When I look at the impact on the struggle itself has been destroyed by the way it is going. You look at the way people are killed. Even animals, you don't kill animals like that. They tell us that when you want to kill an animal, at least you might find they cut leaves and you cover it because you don't want to see the way you are slaughtering it. But you see the way they kill a human being. You can't even kill
images
openly like that. It started with, it is enough that they identify you as not participating when they say not participating. For those of us who are anglophones, they call you and tell you, since you don't want to assist them, okay, they are waiting for you. And if the worst comes to the worst, they kidnap your family members and ask for ransom. What do you think will motivate me to support your cause when you keep on maltreating people as such? What do you think will motivate me to support a cause when you kill people the way you kill them? And then you tell them that you are building an imaginary country. Who will live in that country? An imaginary country where people don't go to school. Who will rule such a country? If we are of the opinion that the future lies in the youth, who would rule them when these youths are not going to school? They are not going to school because they don't want to go to school. They are not going to school because we don't give them the opportunity to go to school. People just sitting out of the country. Jude was talking about the diaspora. They sit there, they carry out their activities in a well-organized society, and they create chaos back home. They just sit at any moment and call for lockdown. I would have loved them to say there is a lockdown, and they lock themselves in their homes abroad. I would have preferred that they say there is lockdown, they don't go to the market to buy food and eat. I would have preferred them to say that school should not go, and they don't send their own children to school. Or are they building a society where those who are back home will remain ignorant, then they bring their children who are educated to come and impose on them? What future are we building? So I think that when, one English newspaper published about 2 weeks ago that infighting, backbiting, and all forms of calumny has crumbled a cause that was just. When this crisis started, teachers and lawyers, they did not ask for cessation. They were asking for a recognition of the English culture. They were asking for recognition of the heritage that the Anglophones received from the British. But then you discover that the program quickly changed course from where it was to what it is now, and it came from abroad. Most of those who are abroad, they have a double nationality.
Because probably
they don't leave the situation we live in.
What are they fighting for now? Nobody will be able to give you
even among themselves, this infighting still exists. And as the infighting is continuing, it is creating division. The impact is felt at home, because we still have from this group fighting this very group whom they call themselves secessionists, and it is the local population who feel the pinch of what is happening. Our mothers can no longer go to the market. They can no longer go to the farm as usual. Life has never been the same. Now, when you look at how many Anglophones are out of the country as refugees, why do we sit and call for trouble, call for sufferings on ourselves? How many Anglophones are out of these two regions as IDPs? Vanessa, when you look at the condition of most of these, our brothers and sisters who are this other side of the country, you tend to ask yourself, what are we fighting for? When human being, I like the way Jude puts it, when life does not exist, nothing else exists. But when we put life, when we create misery, when we add suffering to suffering, and in the name of looking for liberation, I think we would speak like Egyptians who, like the Israelites, who preferred to suffer in Egypt and eat than to go out and die in the desert with Moses. Because when you look at it now, carry out a cross section of Anglophones, they will tell you that we want to go back to our regions. For those who are living out of the region, we want to go back to Northwest, want to go back to Southwest.
They do not have where to sleep.
They don't.
Have food.
Many of them who are here in Douala, in Yaoundé, in Bafoussam, they are not there because they wanted to come to Douala. Conditions forced them to come here. With the living conditions that they are living here, they would never prefer to remain here. So many of them were already established. Vanessa, tell me now, so you know what it means to build a house. Cost of material, building material is increasing. And then they just get up and burn down your house within the twinkle of an eye. They have plunged our societies back to the 70s and the 60s. Because when you go back to our villages, you find places as if no human being has ever lived here. From the images that we have from back home. So we tend to ask ourselves, where are we heading to? I think it's high time that we Anglophones, we have to sit and ask ourselves of what good this struggle has been to us, if there is any good, Vanessa.
Of what good has this struggle been to us? Thank you for your viewpoint as well, Mange Venashus. Our second question, have the efforts of Anglophone elites been sufficient to bring a solution to the 4-year-old crisis? And Jude, you think that their efforts are not enough?
I responded that the efforts of the elites have not been
helpful.
They've not been helpful. They've not coordinated their efforts, actually. They've not come together as a group that seek collective interests of the Anglophones. You know, like in the early 90s, where we had Foncha and the others who had a single file to bring on the table and say this is a collective position of Anglophones. We don't have that scenario today. We have Anglophone elites who have varied interests, and they have different positions they are vying for at different levels, be it in government or out of government. So it has made it very difficult for them to come together. The politicking in Cameroon has not given a smooth atmosphere for them to reason as a collective team. Because if we were to solve this issue, keeping aside the hardcore separatists, we would have also been able to lean on the intellectual class or the elite class, the real class of Anglophones who could redeem us from this. But they are lagging. They are lagging, and they are lacking too, because they have interest in the government. Many of them have affiliated to government, and they are not helping the situation either. Some of them have been very bold to say there's no war that's ongoing in the Northwest and the Southwest region, because they control a lot of money. Let me tell you, if you don't know what the war is, there's money that's in this thing. I've worked in an area where I've seen, not everything is good for the cameras, but I've seen things, I've seen how people control this money for the crisis. There's plenty of money in it that people of different ranks control. So it's difficult for them, to be honest. They always want to tell you that we'll crush the thing 2 days. They always want to give reports, fake reports, and always want to sign mission allowances to go and fight. But the ultimate question, like Vanessa asked earlier, who are we fighting? Our own people? How will it be possible? How will you look at them tomorrow? For what purpose will you fight a people that belong to you tomorrow? Who will you stay with? I think when we start asking ourselves critical questions as the elite group, we might be able to come to some conclusions. But you see, these Anglophone bigwigs, they have not done anything good to us. They are still talking from two sides of the mouth. If they really had the interest of the people, they will sort to put every other thing aside, come together as a group, and say, no, enough is enough. Cameroon government, enough is enough. Separatists, enough is enough. We must have that dialogue.
Maybe they would have even acted as mediators.
That is the mediative role they are lagging. That's lagging. Because today, this other person says, no, you people, the blame game thing is already everywhere. You people of the CPDM, you are this. You people of the SDF, you are this. bringing then some other people you are of the Amazonia group. You want to reason this way that those boys who are in the bush, they also have a voice because they are also Cameroonians. They say no, you are an Amazonia. You want to say okay, government has a right to also defend the citizens. They say you are La Republic.
Yeah, La Republic.
So
you are confronted between two fronts.
The divide is so large. So much that we now have those who are for one and indivisibility, those who are for federation, those who are for secession, those who are just neutral in the media and all that. These different factions make it difficult for these people for our elite to come to a comfortable situation. And if we must go out of this kind of quagmire, we need a goodwill. It will be challenging, but it needs the goodwill of our leadership. The leadership of this country. It's challenging. It's only from there that we can get a quick solution. Because if the leadership of this country is so good enough to say, okay, there are evil people who are struggling to kill my people. We are one. We are indivisible.
We are indivisible.
So I will not let these poor anglophones die of kidnap, of cruel killings, of looting and all that. I will save them. If the leadership thinks from that perspective, they'll engage a dialogue, they'll engage a solution that is easy enough to stop the crisis. But when we appoint people to positions who do not care about the ordinary man, we appoint people who have very little to offer to their own people, who go back, who lie about the situation in their own localities. I mean, with that alone, there's no solution anytime soon. And that's why we fear for this crisis. Even the international community, many people want to vent on that, the international community, and we've been watching that same community over the years. International community, it's difficult for them to penetrate in such situations when they don't have interest also. When both parties block interest of the international community, they don't support. The international community has no good news for anyone. I want to be a bit honest. That same international community you're talking about, they need jobs. They need a Central Africa coordinator of humanitarian refugee, blah, blah, blah. They need UN aid worker for West Africa who is in charge of blah, 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 blah. These guys need these jobs. And it is only when you are in that misery that they get these jobs. So why are you fighting for? You're giving them jobs. When you're fighting, you're giving them jobs. Why should they kill the jobs? So in ultimate form, what I'm saying is, if the government of Cameroon is serious and sees the country as a one and indivisible country that wants to preserve its dignity, preserve its population and its people, the government can engage a serious front of dialogue. Don't listen to these people you call elite. Most of them are not honest. I've been with most of them. I say this, but they are not honest. They don't think of the next generation. The youth of this country.
So they should meet with the leaders of the struggle. That's what you're proposing.
They should meet. It's a broad-based dialogue. What held in Yaoundé last year, the end of last year, was kind of an opportunity for them to start gathering momentum for a good dialogue, which has not come so far. So what the government of Cameroon needs to do to preserve everybody's life in this country and to ensure that the country lives one and indivisible. We started our crisis same time with that of Spain and the Catalonian guy. Now let me tell you the simple secret the guy of Spain did. He came out when the guys of Catalonia went out. He came out immediately and arrested the situation. He was on television every day to say, no, guys, calm down. We will talk. Let us talk. Let us dialogue. What's the immediate problem? He quelled the thing immediately. And so much that even the Catalan guys, they were scared again to acknowledge the other guy who was their leader.
All right.
That's how it ended. But when you give room, like the government of Cameroon is giving room for more chaos, when you give room that people should stay in the bushes, that people should be angry more, you keep radicalizing people, you keep using military tactics, when there are other options we could use, we will keep having the same pain and blaming the evildoer. But why will you commit an evil and keep blaming Satan? So let us be very strategic the way we look at this issue. The government of Cameroon is the main protagonist in this whole thing. It is the main actor. They are both, the belligerents are there, but the government of Cameroon says send the first, when they talk of,
like they are there to play the pivotal role.
the pivotal role to coordinate from every angle that is coming. Don't just sit and keep blaming the separatists. Look at yourself. You are the legitimate government of the people. Look at yourself. What have I done so far? Because when we are evaluating, we are not evaluating from what you have done. We are evaluating from the result of the effort you have put in so far.
All right, thank you, Jude. Mangavana, you think that these elites have done something, but it's not enough?
Yes, Vanessa, when we talk about elites, I always look at them with a very negative connotation. From our own case, maybe in some other countries, they may play the role that elites are supposed or expected to play. But in our own case here, when I look at elites, in relation to this crisis, I think that our elites have done practically very small. That's why I said there was a midway. I would have taken a midway. Because these elites, they tend to fight for their interest. It is not for the interest of the people. Because when we talk of elite, even those in the diaspora, they are our elite, they would have thought about the interest of those they are sending people to fight for. They would have thought of the impact of the war on the ground. If not, then if they had taken that reflection, I don't think that would have been where we are. We have elites who are, Jude was talking something about the government being the pivotal role. We don't call the army armed men. No. We called the Amber Boys. They are armed men because they are not supposed to have armed. The military is, and a gun to them is like a pen to you and I. So that is their working tool. Yes, that is their duty to safeguard the population, the security of the population. But then the government has that duty to make sure that this crisis comes to an end, and they have the capability, they have the potentiality. But then the elites are those who are misleading. I say it, they mislead the government because they don't give the government the reality on the ground. They send a mission to the northwest. They will go and remain in Ayaba Hotel, I think not mentioning names, or they go and remain within the central town and goes back to Yaoundé with a report. When you remain in the central town, you don't know what is happening in Fundong. You don't know what is happening in Bui division. You don't know what is happening in Momo division. But you come back with a report. You get the governor goes down to the quarters to talk to people, well armed with bulletproofs, with the military, and he wants to tell people to go to the market. Could he not also go down? Or he would have been going with bulletproofs to distribute to the people, and then ask them to go out, carry out their activities. You get an elite. He is going to meet the people, well armed, and then he wants to tell them, no, let's end this thing and continue. I think that if our elite sits up, Vanessa, when I'm talking about this, there is a locality in the northwest region that has a little impact of this crisis. I'm talking of Ndu Central in Donga Mantun division. And when you talk of Ndu Central, there is one name that comes up, Honorable Gerard, Ngala Gerard. He has worked in that part of the country, and he has been, schools have been going on in Kambe normally. People leave Kumbu and go to Kambe and go to school, like they're living and coming. So I think that if our elite could be open, because our elites have selfish interest, if they could be open to this crisis, I think we will find an end. That's why I say that their contribution has been very dormant. Only a few of them, just a very handful of them have tried a bit, and I think that their best is not good enough. They can still do more if they have that will to look for a solution for this crisis, Vanessa.
All right, thank you very much, Jude. Before we go, as a journalist and a writer, campaigner, how are your activities going on during this period of the coronavirus?
Well, it's challenging. Coronavirus came at the moment no one had expected. We didn't used to go about it. I'm just realize that my face mask is over there for the sake of the microphone. We just have to cope. We just have to adapt. It came at the moment where we can't go to the field. And one of the challenges I face as a journalist right now is there are some places that you really have to be there to have first-hand information, to see people, to see these officials and talk to them and have that interview one-on-one. There's a different feeling when you do that one-on-one, talk with them and investigate what you want to. But these days, when you call most of them, you're coming and say, no, coronavirus, this, that. and it's become an escape route for many of them. It's challenging when you have to get into the studio at any point. You have to tell your guest, please wash your hands there, sanitize and all that. But it is for our own safety. What will we do? We just keep moving.
But anyway, we need to work, or we are forced to work within the conditions.
That's right.
Or within the precautions of the coronavirus. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Wishing you a happy weekend.
Thank you very much.
Manga Vinashus, I'm wishing you a happy weekend too.
Same to you.
As well. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm wishing you all a happy weekend. Don't go away. Keep on watching DBS television and have a nice and a splendid weekend. But do not forget that Monday we'll be right back, God willing.